Well, Secretary Walsh, thank you for being here, part of our very first Horizons on the Record show. And just want to start by getting your reflections on the job numbers.
You know, when you look at the job numbers today, 210,000 jobs added to the economy. The forecast has predicted, I think, double that. But every month that I've been doing this, the numbers have been off. A couple of times we've gone over, but they've been off. But I think when you have to look at the recovery here with President Biden, you have to look at the whole picture. And from the time he took over as president, he's added almost 6 million jobs to the economy. The unemployment rate has dropped nearly 2 full points. This month's reports, we saw gains in construction, manufacturing, and transportation, which is areas where we historically haven't seen them. So, you know, we're on a pathway to opportunity, but we still have more work to do.
I would agree, we're definitely on a path to opportunity. And kind of as we speak, our friends over here in Congress are debating the Build Back Better legislation. Yep. And so how do you see kind of the jobs numbers as we're seeing them now? How does that underscore the need for this new legislation?
Well, one aspect of it, when I looked at the jobs report and when I've kind of, in the last couple months, looked at those areas, there are certain sectors that need greater investment as far as job training, in nursing and healthcare, in trucking, in the truck drivers industry, and other areas. And in the Build Back Better reconciliation package, there's billions of dollars for job training and workforce development money and apprentice programs. Yep. So we have an opportunity to get that money and make targeted investments into industries in our country that, quite honestly, that are either needing the support or emerging. And we also have an opportunity with the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed for job training. And you know, I was out in LA yesterday, and we were talking to women in the trades. Yep. And you know, with having investment in pre-apprentice programs, we could really create better pathways for women into the building trades and people of color into the building trades that don't necessarily exist today. Yep. And so we could open up a whole new industry for people that might not be thinking about it if we had the resources to make those investments.
And I know you had a lot of activity recently around National Apprenticeship Week, and thank you for being part of JFF's event that week as well. And so how do you see kind of, as you said, like those pieces fitting together, right? Kind of increasing the diversity and equity within
Well, I think we have to be intentional about it, number one. And certainly in my time as mayor, I've learned that. Number two, we have to really create, how do we go out, people don't know what industry to look for if they don't know what's available. Yep. So go find them and say to people, you have a real opportunity here. You know, yesterday, I think on the job site I was on, it was a related bill project. There was 63 women on the project altogether working, which seems like a big number, and it is a big number. But there's no reason why it can't be 600 women. Right. And there's no reason why we can't have more African American and Latino women and people of color work on these projects. And so I think people think that it's not attainable for them, that they can't work construction, when as a matter of fact it is. And I think that we have to, like I said, be intentional about how we do it. And that's why I think the Build Back Better, one of the pieces of Build Back Better is really important. And the second piece of that is childcare. Yes. There was a young woman there, she was a painter in the Painters Union. She was a second-year apprentice, and she just had a child. And I was asking her, how hard is it to work on a construction site, you know, when you have to work at 7 a.m. to 3 and you have kids, and she has family to help her. Not everyone has a family member to help them. So we need to think about healthcare, childcare in a whole different manner. You know, childcare isn't 9 to 5. If you're working in industry construction, you need 6 to 6. So there's things that we have to do here.
Totally agree about childcare. We're actually filming this here outside of the Labor Department building where I worked for 16 years. Yeah. Including when I was a new mom. And so I just really appreciated the ability to bring my baby in with me, use the on-site childcare.
It's great too for people. I mean, if you're a mom or a dad and you want to go down and see the baby,
absolutely.
The baby's not feeling well in the morning, you run downstairs.
Yep.
It's great to have it here. And plus, for me, we had it at City Hall, and we're not fully back here yet, but it lifts the building too.
Absolutely.
It lifts the building.
Absolutely. And so, you know, speaking of Boston, when you were mayor, you know, you really prioritized workforce development in your tenure there. Yep. And what advice do you have for other local elected officials? How can they really put jobs and workers and kind of equity and opportunity at the forefront of their
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is bring really good people in. And I had an amazing person, Trin Nguyen, running my economic development office in Boston. Bring good people in that are dedicated, committed to it, and be focused and set goals. Yep. and measure those goals and make sure you're hitting the targets. And if you're not, realign what you're doing. And I think that that's important. We also created an office of financial empowerment along with workforce development. So while we're helping people better themselves in their place, we also help them with filing their taxes. We help them with building credit. So when they do get into those jobs, they have opportunities to buy homes. They're not fixing their credit then later on. So there's a whole package there. And so I would say that to mayors or governors or whoever it might be, if you want to make the biggest impact for people, really focus on your workforce development office and give it the power it needs to be successful.
Yeah, I love that. And I know when you were out in LA, you're also touring the ports, right? So a lot of issues right now around supply chain. How do you look at the workforce development component of that and how we kind of build the talent that's needed to really help that supply chain keep moving?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, one of the areas that we clearly have a shortage in or a gap in, I guess you could say. I mean, I don't know if there's a shortage, but a gap is in truck drivers. And you think about that. So not everyone can just wake up one day and all of a sudden drive an 18-wheeler or a 16-wheeler. You have to be trained in that. So we're working here at the Department of Labor on coming up with a program and how we create opportunities. So that's one area, I think, in that area. And then you also have other jobs at the port. I mean, we all think the port is longshoring, in trucking, but there's jobs inside. There's office jobs there too. So really creating pathways in those jobs too is important.
That's great. Awesome. So what excites you the most looking ahead to the next 3 or 6 months?
Well, what excites me is that we have a president that really wants to create and give pathways into the middle class, and working for Joe Biden and working for President Biden, I should say, and focus on that excites me. And really working to carry out his vision is something that excites me. You know, as mayor or as a state representative or the head of the building trades, my job was to try and create opportunities and pathways for people to better themselves. And we have a president of the United States of America that feels strongly about this. It's great working for somebody like that.
That's great. And when you were mayor, you had to work on a bipartisan basis with a Republican governor. Are there lessons that you think others kind of on Capitol Hill and others can kind of learn about how do you work?
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think that we have to break down these barriers in some cases of Democrats and Republicans and put the American people first. I think the president was able to do that. We saw it with the infrastructure bill, getting support from both sides of the aisle. And it's unfortunate right now with the Build Back Better bill that we're not seeing that, because the investments that we're making into communities all across America, they're going to go into Republican communities, they're going to go into Democratic communities, and people, the American people need those. So, I think it is important. I think it's important to have those. We'll have differences, there's no question about it. But we have to keep finding common ground. The American people expect that and deserve that.
What do you think the private sector can be doing kind of in this moment to support their workers?
I think a better collaboration with government officials in government. I've spent a lot of time as the mayor reaching out to business communities in the private sector, and as Secretary of Labor I've done the same, and it's working. And really thinking about some of these opportunities for job training, workforce development, it's not all going to be government investment. Some of it can be private sector investment. We can help them create programs. So I think that I've had some great conversations with businesses already about building those relationships.
One more question on cross-agency collaboration. So I know when I was at DOL, we did a ton of work with the Department of Ed and other agencies. How are you and your kind of fellow cabinet members working together on some of these issues?
We're working really closely. So one example is myself and Secretary Raimondo of Commerce. Years ago, Commerce and Labor were together, and then everyone kind of took sides and said, not anymore. With Commerce and Labor, we work collectively together with education. So when you think about job training, you think about commerce, the businesses, you think about training, the Department of Labor, you think about education, Secretary Cardona. There's an opportunity for us to really do some amazing things. We've begun those We've been doing that since we've been here now for about 6 months, all of us. And then also working across all the agencies. There's an opportunity for us to really, the president and this cabinet, we're close. So we do work very closely together. I mean, there's an intersection with everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Really appreciate the conversation.
I appreciate it.